The rooks cawed, and blither birds sang, but nothing was so merry or so musical as my own rejoicing heart. I ate what I could, and then I hastened upstairs. I met Adele leaving the schoolroom. "Where are you going? It is time for lessons. Mr. Rochester has sent me away to the nursery." "Where is he?" "In there," pointing to the apartment she had left. And I went in, and there he stood. "Come and bid me good morning," said he. I gladly advanced, and it was not merely a cold word now, or even a shake of the hand that I received, but an embrace and a kiss. It seemed natural. It seemed genial to be so well loved, so caressed by him. "Jane, you look blooming, and smiling, and pretty," said he, "truly pretty this morning. Is this my pale, little elf? Is this my mustard seed? This little sunny-faced girl with the dimpled cheek and rosy lips, the satin-smooth hazel hair, and the radiant hazel eyes? I had green eyes, reader. But you must excuse the mistake. For him they were new-dyed, I suppose. You blushed, and now you are white. Jane, what is that for? Because you gave me a new name, Jane Rochester, and it seems so strange." "Yes, Mrs. Rochester," said he, "young Mrs. Rochester, Fairfax Rochester's girl bride. It can never be, sir. It does not sound likely. Human beings never enjoy complete happiness in this world. I was not born for a different destiny to the rest of my species, to imagine such a lot befalling. Me is a fairy tale, a daydream, which I can and will realize. I shall begin today. This morning I wrote to my banker in London to send me certain jewels he has in his keeping, heirlooms for the ladies of Thornfield. In a day or two I hope to pour them into your lap, for every privilege, every attention shall be yours that I would accord a peer's daughter if about to marry her. Oh, sir, never mind jewels, I don't like to hear them spoken of. Jewels for Jane Eyre sound unnatural and strange. I would rather not have them. No, no, sir. Think of other subjects, and speak of other things, and in another strain. Don't address me as if I were a beauty. I am your plain, quakerich governess. You are a beauty in my eyes, and a beauty just after the desire of my heart, delicate and aerial, puny and insignificant. You mean, you are dreaming, sir, or you are sneering. For God's sake, don't be ironical. I will make the world acknowledge you a beauty, too," he went on, while I really became uneasy at the strain he had adopted, because I felt he was either deluding himself or trying to delude me. "And I don't call you handsome, sir, though I love you most dearly, far too dearly to flatter you. Don't flatter me." He pursued his theme, however, without noticing my deprecation. "This very day I shall take you in the carriage to Millcote, and you must choose some dresses for yourself. I told you we shall be married in 4 weeks. The wedding is to take place quietly in the church down below yonder, and then I shall waft you away at once to town after a brief stay there. I shall bear my treasure to regions nearer the sun, to French vineyards and Italian plains. 10 years since, I flew through Europe half mad, with disgust, hate, and rage as my companions. Now I shall revisit it healed and cleaned, with a very angel as my comforter. What do you anticipate of me? For a little while you will perhaps be as you are now, a very little while, and then you will turn cool, and then you will be capricious, and then you will be stern, and I shall have much ado to please you. Distasteful, and like you again. I think I shall like you again, and yet again, and I will make you confess I do not only like, but love you, with truth, fervor, constancy. Yet are you not capricious, sir, to women who please me only by their faces? I am the very devil when I find out they have neither souls nor hearts, when they open to me a perspective of flatness, triviality, and perhaps imbecility, coarseness, and ill temper, but to the clear eye and eloquent tongue, to the soul made of fire, and the character that bends but does not break, at once supple and stable, tractable and consistent, I am ever tender and true. Had you ever experience of such a character, sir? Did you ever love such an one? I love it now. I am influenced, conquered, and the influence is sweeter than I can express, and the conquest I undergo has a witchery beyond any triumph I can win. Why do you smile, Jane? What does that inexplicable, that uncanny turn of countenance mean? I was thinking, sir, you will excuse the idea. It was involuntary. I was thinking of Hercules and Samson with their charmers. You were? You little elfish. Hush, sir. Ask me something now, Jana. The least thing. I desire to be entreated. Indeed I will, sir. I have my petition already. Speak. But if you look up and smile with that countenance, I shall swear concession before I know to what, and that will make a fool of me. Not at all, sir. I ask only this. Don't send for the jewels, and don't crown me with roses. You might as well put a border of gold lace round that plain pocket handkerchief you have there. I might as well gild refined gold. I know it. Your request is granted then, for the time. I will remand the order I dispatched to my banker. But you have not yet asked for anything. You have prayed a gift to be withdrawn. Try again. Well, then, sir, have the goodness to gratify my curiosity, which is much piqued on one point. Now, King Ahasuerus, what do I want with half your estate? Do you think I am a Jew usurer, seeking good investment in land? I would much rather have all your confidence. You will not exclude me from your confidence if you admit me to your heart. And begin and coax and entreat, even cry and be sulky if necessary, for the sake of a mere essay of my power. I dare you to any such experiment, encroach, presume, and the game is up. Is it, sir? You soon give in. How stern you look now. Your eyebrows have become as thick as my finger, and your forehead resembles what, in some very astonishing poetry, I once saw styled a blue-piled thunderloft. That will be your married look, sir. I suppose, if that will be your married look, I, as a Christian, will soon give up the notion of consorting with a mere sprite or salamander. But what had you to ask? Bing, out with it! There, you are less than civil now, and I like rudeness a great deal better than flattery. I had rather be a thing than an angel. Jane, and I have seen what a fire spirit you can be when you are indignant. You glowed in the cool moonlight last night, when you mutinied against fate, and claimed your rank as my equal, Jana. By the by, it was you who made me the offer. Of course I did, but to the point if you please. Sir, Miss Ingram? Well, I feigned courtship of Miss Ingram, because I wished to render you as madly in love with me as I was with you. And I knew jealousy would be the best ally I could call in for the furtherance of that end. Excellent, now you are small. Not one whit bigger than the end of my little finger. Do you think Miss Ingram will not suffer from your dishonest coquetry? Won't she feel forsaken and deserted? Impossible. When I told you how she, on the contrary, deserted me, the idea of my insolvency cooled, or rather extinguished, her flame in a moment. You have a curious, designing mind, Mr. Rochester. I am afraid your principles on some points are eccentric. My principles were never trained, Jane. They may have grown a little wry for want of attention. I turned my lips to the hand that lay on my shoulder. I loved him very much, more than I could trust myself to say, more than words had power to express. Ask something more, he said presently. It is my delight to be entreated, and to yield. I was again ready with my request. Communicate your intentions to Mrs. Fairfax. Sir, she saw me with you last night in the hall, and she was shocked. Give her some explanation before I see her again. Station. Your station is in my heart, and on the necks of those who would insult you, now or hereafter. Go. Express the surprise of a quiet mind stirred by unwonted tidings. Seeing me, she roused herself. She made a sort of effort to smile, and framed a few words of congratulation. Now, can you tell me whether it is actually true that Mr. Rochester has asked you to marry him? Don't laugh at me. But I really thought he came in here 5 minutes ago, and said that in a month you would be his wife. He has said the same thing to me, I replied. He has? Do you believe him? Have you accepted him? Yes. She looked at me bewildered. I could never have thought it. He is a proud man. All the Rochesters were proud. And his father, at least, liked money. He, too, has always been called careful. He means to marry you. He tells me so. She surveyed my whole person. In her eyes I read that they had there found no charm powerful enough to solve the enigma. It passes me, she continued, but no doubt it is true since you say so. How it will answer, I cannot tell. I really don't know. Equality of position and fortune is often advisable in such cases. And there are 20 years of difference in your ages. He might almost be your father. No, indeed, Mrs. Fairfax, exclaimed I, nettled. He is nothing like my father. No one who saw us together would suppose it for an instant. Mr. Rochester looks as young, and is as young as some men at 25. Is it really for love he is going to marry you? She asked. I was so hurt by her coldness and scepticism that the tears rose to my eyes. I am sorry to grieve you, pursued the widow, but you are so young and so little acquainted with men. I wish to put you on your guard. It is an old saying that all is not gold that glitters, and in this case I do fear there will be something found to be different to what either you or I expect. Why am I a monster? I said. Is it impossible that Mr. Rochester should have a sincere affection for me? No, you are very well. Well, never mind that now, I interrupted impatiently. It is enough that all was right. I hope all will be right in the end, she said. But believe me, you cannot be too careful. Try and keep Mr. Rochester at a distance. Distrust yourself as well as him. Gentlemen in his station are not accustomed to marry their governesses. I was growing truly irritated. Happily, Adele ran in. Let me go to Millcote too, she cried. Mr. Rochester won't, though there is so much room in the new carriage. Beg him to let me go, mademoiselle. That I will, Adele. And I hastened away with her, glad to quit my gloomy monitress. The carriage was ready. They were bringing it round to the front, and my master was pacing the pavement, Pilot following him backwards and forwards. Adele may accompany us, may she not? Sir, I told her no. I'll have no brats. I'll have only you. Do let her go, Mr. Rochester, if you please. It would be better, not it. She will be a restraint. He was quite peremptory, both in look and voice. The chill of Mrs. Fairfax's warnings and the damp of her doubts were upon me. Something of insubstantiality and uncertainty had beset my hopes. I half lost the sense of power over him. I was about mechanically to obey him, without further remonstrance, but as he helped me into the carriage, he looked at my face. What is the matter? He asked. All the sunshine is gone. Do you really wish the bairn to go? Will it annoy you if she is left behind? I would far rather she went, sir. Then off for your bonnet. And back like a flash of lightning, cried he to Adele. She obeyed him with what speed she might. After all, a single morning's interruption will not matter much, said he. When I mean shortly to claim you, your thoughts, conversation, and company, for life. Adele, when lifted and commenced kissing me, by way of expressing her gratitude for my intercession, she was instantly stowed away into a corner on the other side of him. He handed her over as if she had been a lapdog. I'll send her to school yet, he said, but now he was smiling. She will have nothing to eat. You will starve her, observed Adele. I shall gather manna for her morning and night. The plains and hillsides in the moon are bleached with manna, Adele. She will want to warm herself. What will she do for a fire? Fire rises out of the lunar mountains. When she is cold, I'll carry her up to a peak and lay her down on the edge of a crater. Oh, quel why Ciramal, pew comfortable? And her clothes, they will wear out. How can she get new ones? Mr. Rochester professed to be puzzled. Hem, said he. What would you do, Adele? Cudgel your brains for an expedient. She has consented. She has pledged her word. But you can't get her there. There is no road to the moon. It is all air, and neither you nor she can fly. Adele, look at that field. We were now outside Thornfield gates, and bowling lightly along the smooth road to Millcote. And there I took out a little book and a pencil, and began to write about a misfortune that befell me long ago, and a wish I had for happy days to come. I was writing away very fast, though daylight was fading from the leaf, when something came up the path and stopped 2 yards off me. I looked at it. It was a little thing with a veil of gossamer on its head. I beckoned it to come near me. It stood soon at my knee. But what has Mademoiselle to do with it? I don't care for the fairy. You said it was Mademoiselle you would take to the moon. Mademoiselle is a fairy, he said, whispering mysteriously. The air spent at Millcote was a somewhat harassing one to me. Rochester obliged me to go to a certain silk warehouse. There I was ordered to choose half a dozen dresses. I hated the business. I begged leave to defer it. No, it should be gone through with now. By dint of entreaties expressed in energetic whispers, I reduced the half dozen to 2. These, however, he vowed he would select himself. With infinite difficulty, for he was stubborn as a stone, I persuaded him to make an exchange in favor of a sober black satin and pearl gray silk. It might pass for the present, he said. But he would yet see me glittering like a parter. Glad was I to get him out of the silk warehouse, and then out of a jeweler's shop. The more he bought me, the more my cheek burned with a sense of annoyance and degradation. He smiled, and I thought his smile was such as a sultan might, in a blissful and fond moment, bestow on a slave his gold and gems had enriched. I crushed his hand, which was ever hunting mine, vigorously, and thrust it back to him red with the passionate pressure. He chuckled. He rubbed his hands. Oh, it is rich to see and hear her, he exclaimed. Is she original? Is she piquant? I would not exchange this one little English girl for the Grand Turk's whole seraglio. Gazelle eyes, airy forms, and all. And what will you do, Jana? Well, I am bargaining for so many tons of flesh and such an assortment of black eyes. I'll be preparing myself to go out as a missionary to preach liberty to them that are enslaved, your harem inmates amongst the rest. I would consent to be at your mercy, Jane. I would have no mercy, Mr. Rochester, if you supplicated for it with an eye like that. Well, you look so. I should be certain that whatever charter you might grant under coercion, your first act, when released, would be to violate its conditions. Why, Jane, what would you have? I fear you will compel me to go through a private marriage ceremony. Besides that performed at the altar, you will stipulate, I see. For peculiar terms, what will they be? I only want an easy mind, sir, not crushed by crowded obligations. Do you remember what you said of Celine Varens, of the diamonds, the cashmeres you gave her? I will not be your English Celine Varens. I shall continue to act as Adele's governess. By that I shall earn my board and lodging, and £30 a year besides. Will it please you to dine with me today? He asked, as we re-entered the gates. No, thank you, sir. And what for? No, thank you, if one may inquire. I never have dined with you, sir, and I see no reason why I should now. Till what? You delight in half-phrases, till I can't help it. Do you suppose I eat like an ogre or a ghoul? That you dread being the companion of my repast? I have formed no supposition on the subject, sir, but I want to go on as usual for another month. You will give up your governessing slavery at once. Indeed, begging your pardon, sir, I shall not. I shall just go on with it as usual. I shall keep out of your way all day, as I have been accustomed to do. You may send for me in the evening, when you feel disposed to see me, and I'll come then, but at no other time. I want a smoke, Jane, or a pinch of snuff, to comfort me under all this. Pour me Donner, any continence, as Adele would say, and unfortunately I have neither my cigar case nor my snuff box. He said I was a capricious witch, and that he would rather sing another time, but I averred that no time was like the present. Did I like his voice? He asked. Very much. I was not fond of pampering that susceptible vanity of his. But for once, and from motives of expediency, I would e'en soothe and stimulate it. Then, Jane, you must play the accompaniment. Very well, sir, I will try. And while I sat there and looked out on the still trees and dim lawn, to a sweet air was sung in mellow tones the following strain. The truest love that ever heart felt at its kindled core, did through each vein, in quickened start, the tide of being pour. Her coming was my hope each day, her parting was my pain. The chance that did her steps delay was ice in every vein. I dreamed it would be nameless bliss, as I loved to be. And to this object did I press as blind as eagerly. But wide as pathless was the space that lay our lives between, and dangerous as the foamy race of ocean surges green, and haunted as a robber path through wilderness or wood for might and right, and woe and wrath between our spirits stood. I dangers dared, I hindrance scorned, I omens did defy, whatever menaced, harassed, warned, I passed impetuous spy. On sped my rainbow, fast as light, I flew as in a dream, for glorious rose upon my sight that child of shower and gleam, still bright on clouds of suffering dim shines that soft, solemn joy. Nor care I now, how dense and grim disasters gather nigh. I care not in this moment sweet, though all I have rushed o'er should come on pinion, strong and fleet, proclaiming vengeance o'er. Though haughty hate should strike me down, right? Bar approach to me, and grinding might, with furious frown, swear on this enmity. My love has placed her little hand with noble faith in mine, and vowed that wedlock's sacred band or nature shall entwine. My love has sworn, with sealing kiss, with me to live, to die. I have at last my nameless bliss, as I love, loved am I. He rose and came towards me, and I saw his face all kindled, and his full falcon eye flashing, and tenderness and passion in every lineament. I quailed momentarily, then I rallied. What did he mean by such a pagan idea? I had no intention of dying with him. He might depend on that. Oh, all he longed, all he prayed for, was that I might live with him. Death was not for such as I, indeed it was. I had as good a right to die when my time came as he had. But I should bide that time, and not be hurried away in a suddy. Would I forgive him for the selfish idea, and prove my pardon by a reconciling kiss? No, I would rather be excused. Here I heard myself apostrophized as a hard little thing, and it was added, any other woman would have been melted to marrow at hearing such stanzas crooned in her praise. Would I be quiet and talk rationally? I would be quiet if he liked. And as to talking rationally, I flattered myself I was doing that now. And that a lamb-like submission and turtled of sensibility, while fostering his despotism more, would have pleased his judgment, satisfied his common sense, and even suited his taste less. The best words at my service were provoking puppet, malicious self, sprite, changeling, etc. For caresses, too, I now got grimaces, for a pressure of the hand, a pinch on the arm, for a kiss on the cheek, a severe tweak of the ear. It was all right. At present I decidedly preferred these fierce favors to anything more tender. Mrs. Fairfax, I saw, approved me. Her anxiety on my account vanished. Therefore I was certain I did well. If one expedient loses its virtue, another must be devised. Yet after all my task was not an easy one. Often I would rather have pleased than teased him. My future husband was becoming to me my whole world, and more than the world, almost my hope of heaven. He stood between me and every thought of religion. As an eclipse intervenes between man and the broad sun, I could not, in those days, see God for his creature, of whom I had made an idol.
All right, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.